when you actually look at the cold, hard numbers. Even her allies, even the Hollywood press, even the people who claimed that Series 1 was a success, no one can paper over the cracks here. With Love, Meghan Series 2 is now officially the biggest Netflix flop ever.
I was watching what has to be one of the most unintentionally hilarious disasters on television. Let's start with the basics. Season 2 opens with Meghan in a house that isn't even hers. That's right, she's filming inside a $10 million stand-in property, while her real Montecito mansion up the road is reportedly worth double that. Yet the show wants us to believe this is her cozy little humble cottage, where she casually tends to vegetables and sprinkles flower petals like some whimsical kitchen fairy. The tomatoes, perfectly ripe, the flowers, all blooming on cue. And the garden, it looks less like reality and more like something straight out of a Disney set.
6 tears left eye.
If anyone deserved it, right?
Well, Dan, I think you and I have been predicting this for some time. I hate to sing our praises, but, I don't think we're fortune tellers. I think we were simply sufficiently perceptive and prescient enough to realize what was coming, in much the same way that rarely a river flows into the sea. Failure is inevitable with Meghan.
Nothing about this show feels real, and that's the core problem. It's one giant illusion wrapped in puff pastry. And speaking of puff pastry, Meghan's big cooking advice to her guest, longtime makeup artist Daniel, is wait for it. Always keep puff pastry in the freezer. That's episode 1's hot culinary tip. Not how to make it, not how to elevate it, not even a creative twist. Just keep it frozen. This is her idea of hosting a food show. And poor Daniel, he looks like he was dragged onto set against his will. Sure, he smiles on camera, but there's a hostage energy in those eyes that once you notice, you cannot unsee.
Yeah, and when she was asking for a napkin, then she put the napkins were put on the table, which they normally are, and she kept hers on the table, while Emily Chan, who's obviously far better behaved and more civilized than Meghan, put hers on her lap, which is where a napkin belongs. But Meghan never once had her napkin in her lap.
It's like Daniel is blinking in Morse code, begging for help. Now let's talk about the so-called big celebrity guest reveal. Oprah? The Obamas? Maybe Elton John or the Clooneys? Nope, not a single one. They've all ghosted Meghan like a bad Tinder match. Instead, the grand kickoff of season 2 features Daniel. Yes, her makeup guy. That's who sets the stage. And poor Daniel is stuck delivering lines like, "I'm so excited to be here," while looking as if there's a red laser dot hovering just off camera. But wait, it actually gets worse. Meghan later drags in 2 real chefs, David Chang and Christina Tosi. Actual professionals, actual charisma. And the second they step onto the set, the contrast is brutal. You can feel it instantly.
And watching her eat makes me sick. It makes me sick. I mean, Lady C, I know you sat through With Love, Meghan, bless you, but did you notice, apart from on 2 occasions, she would eat standing up around the kitchen island like some type of rabid animal, stuffing it in her face.
A pig at the trough.
The chefs are relaxed, confident, completely at ease in front of the cameras without even trying. Meghan, on the other hand, comes across like someone who studied old sitcoms to learn how normal people behave, and the result is downright bizarre. Everyone else is laid back, while she's grinning so hard it looks physically painful. At one point, she suggests making an onion tart, and Daniel, ever the loyal soldier, nods like she just revolutionized cuisine itself. But then comes the strangest moment of all. Meghan launches into a lecture about puff pastry, delivering it with the tone of someone announcing the cure for cancer.
Sorry. That's what I thought. A pig at the trough. And all of that eating with her fingers. You know, is she proving that she's a foodie or that she's savage? Because I think she's actually proving the latter. And I mean, is this somebody who the public is supposed to think is so glamorous and so appealing and so attractive?
You should always have puff pastry in your freezer. Meghan says it like it's gospel truth, and Daniel nods again on cue. Thanks, Meghan. And just like that, we've crossed into full-on culinary cult territory. But here's the real kicker. In one scene, Meghan suddenly drops a line about rethinking baking to be more spontaneous. Except she didn't actually say it on camera. Her mouth doesn't even move. The line was dubbed in later, a sneaky little voiceover magic trick slipped in during editing. It's staged to sound profound, like Meghan has morphed into the Gordon Ramsay of spontaneity, but the execution is pure smoke and mirrors.
I mean, these programs only work if you admire the person involved and you feel that they have something to offer you that you do not have yourself.
And Daniel, poor terrified Daniel, chimes in right on cue with, so true, you honestly can't make this stuff up. And believe it or not, that's just scratching the surface. Because this show isn't bad in the normal way. It's not just dull or awkward, it's something stranger. It's so fake, so unintentionally hilarious that it loops all the way back around into being watchable for all the wrong reasons. And Daniel isn't the only one caught in Meghan's fantasy land. Enter David and Christina, two real respected chefs who probably thought they were signing up for a breezy cooking segment and some casual back and forth. Instead, they walked into a staged spectacle that feels more like satire than a food show.
But I mean, who's going to follow Meghan Markle except the few brain-dead followers that she has? And they certainly turned out to be few and far between.
And they're dwindling.
How many hundred down is she now?
Instead, they stumble straight into what feels like a theatrical cult of personality. Meghan greets them with such over-the-top warmth. You'd think she was auditioning for a Hallmark movie. And from the very start, it's clear this isn't really a cooking show. It's an ego shrine dressed up with recipes. And what's the very first gift she offers these accomplished chefs? Scarves. Not chic, stylish scarves, but hideous handmade disasters born from something she calls water marbling. It's a craft so painfully dull and slow that just describing it feels like punishment. Meghan dips linen into inky water, swirls around some blobs, and voila, an abstract mess somehow passed off as fashion.
Oh my God.
796.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally going down by the day. She made none of the weekly top 10 lists, which is what the industry looks to see if something has been a hit. And it has been a catastrophic disaster, which is why we've got these stunts, Lady C.
But here's the twist. Meghan doesn't hand out gifts out of kindness. Every scarf, every trinket is really a subtle power play. It's a passive-aggressive move to establish dominance. Here's this strange scarf I made. Now smile, say thank you, and remember who the generous one is. There's no reciprocity, just forced, awkward gratitude from guests who clearly weren't expecting to be part of her craft fair. And then comes the so-called cooking segment, and it's honestly painful to watch. Meghan moves through the kitchen like someone who's binged cooking tutorials but never actually touched a pan. She's stiff, hesitant, visibly nervous near the stove. She spills things, fumbles basic tasks, and watches the oven like it's about to explode. This is someone who absolutely does not belong near hot surfaces.
And I want to ask you about a couple of them, because the photo with Doria, which she turned into this moving image, turns out to be something that she posted in 2016. So why on earth is she putting up a picture that's 9 years old to celebrate her mother, unless her mother has said, I'm done. I don't want to be part of this PR circus anymore, which is what I'm being told is exactly what's happened.
It's like watching a toddler wrestle with a blender. And the food, fried eggs, puff pastry, and marshmallows. That's not a meal, it's a sleepover gone wrong. But the best part, the guests have to act like it's all revolutionary. They nibble on these sad little onion tarts and respond as if they've just unlocked the secrets of the universe. One even says, This is one of the most joyful days I've ever had. And honestly, the only explanation is that the production team had a medic standing by, pumping guests with some kind of euphoric serum during the lunch break, because there's no way puff pastry and marshmallows got them there naturally. There's no other way to explain the overacting on this show. It's theater disguised as lifestyle TV. At one point, Meghan randomly decides flower arranging should be a thing. Why? Because when she runs out of puff pastry and pre-scripted compliments, she drags her guests into the garden to butcher weeds. The results are a mess, like someone stuffed roadside plants into a vase and hoped for a miracle. But of course, it's all framed as a spiritual experience, with everyone nodding along, pretending to be inspired. Then comes the wildest twist. Meghan actually compares herself to a samurai. Yes, really. She hears that samurais practice calligraphy and flower arranging, and suddenly lights up as if she's uncovered proof she's descended from an ancient warrior clan. "Isn't it wild that I do both?" she gushes. She beams, and the narcissism is so pure, it's almost impressive. Then comes a moment about graham crackers, when Meghan suddenly blurts out lavender honey as a flavor idea. And you'd think she just solved world hunger. The guests react like she reinvented the wheel. Christina even gasps. That's the most amazing idea. Meanwhile, Meghan soaks up the praise like she's holding court in a palace. It's not just cringy, it's unsettling. Every word she utters is treated as divine wisdom. No disagreement, no playful teasing, no reality check, just a room full of adults tiptoeing around her ego like it's a live wire. Terrified to break the illusion. This isn't a talk show or a cooking show. It's a choreographed fantasy starring Meghan in every role imaginable. The misunderstood genius, the charming hostess, the victim, the hero, the samurai, the flower whisperer, and of course the culinary goddess, all packed into one painfully rehearsed, awkward spectacle. The grand climax of this fever dream arrives when Meghan unveils what's framed as the emotional heart of the episode, a deep reflection on her journey. She sits with her guests, who by now look spiritually broken, and solemnly declares, "There have been so many chapters." The delivery is so heavy, so self-serious, you'd think she was recounting the horrors of war, or surviving some life-shattering ordeal. But in reality, it's just the story of someone climbing Hollywood's social ladder via game shows and red carpets. It doesn't even feel like an admission. It's more like Meghan testing out the title of her next memoir, willing it into existence. And just when you think the episode can't get any more surreal, the flower arranging returns. Not casual, not a filler segment. This time, it's staged like a sacred ritual. The chefs, the makeup guy, everyone is dragged back into the garden to pluck weeds and arrange them as though they're composing a national anthem. And at the center of it all stands Meghan, the self-appointed conductor of this chaotic orchestra, directing placements, praising stems, and even gasping dramatically as if a daisy had just whispered its deepest secrets into her soul. Everything on this show is framed as transformative. Every glance, every sentence, every breath Meghan takes is supposed to drip with meaning, yet it all feels painfully hollow. There's no warmth, no spark of spontaneity, just an endless, desperate need to impress. Even when Chef David talks about his restaurant's philosophy of avoiding food waste, Meghan instantly cuts in with, "Me too," because of course Meghan does everything. Mention farming, she'll say she grew up on a tractor. Mention brain surgery, she'll insist she once saw a documentary and it changed her life. Nothing is allowed to stand on its own. It all has to be reframed through the glowing lens of Meghan's supposed greatness. The moment that truly blows apart the illusion comes during a kitchen scene. Meghan casually comments about how baking is more spontaneous, but here's the problem, it's not real. The line is clearly dubbed in after the fact. Her lips don't even move while the camera lingers on her fixed smile. This isn't just sloppy editing, it's manipulative. It's the production bending reality to make her look deep and insightful, patching in lines to give her borrowed wisdom she never actually spoke. And that's the real sting. It's not only embarrassing, it's downright deceitful, exposing just how hyper-controlled and artificial this entire show really is. To make matters worse, Daniel, who's actually speaking live in that scene, immediately responds with "so true," as if Meghan just delivered a life-changing quote. But since she never actually said those words in the moment, his reply becomes this ghostly echo to a fake line. The entire exchange ends up as eerie proof that even Meghan's supposed off-the-cuff wisdom has to be stitched together later in a studio. There's nothing genuine here, only the illusion of spontaneity, manufactured in editing bays. And then the credits roll. The very first name that flashes, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. And suddenly, it all makes sense. Despite the chaos, the delusion, the awkward performance, this was always the point. The show exists for her, about her, and only because of her. She clings to that title like it's armor. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, as if the words alone grant her legitimacy. She walked away from the royal family, trashed its reputation, yet still stamps her projects with the brand she claims to have escaped. That's not irony, it's strategy. Because for Meghan, this was never about cooking, or guests, or authenticity. It's about building a narrative where she's always the centerpiece, always the wounded heroine, always the misunderstood genius. But the plan backfires spectacularly. The harder she tries to control the story, the more fake she appears. And here's the ultimate twist. The show does succeed at one thing. It reveals exactly who Meghan really is, not through her carefully scripted lines, but through the cracks in her performance. The real Meghan isn't the smiling hostess. She's the woman terrified of silence, desperate for control.